Earlier this year, there were 3 wife murder cases within 2 months in middle-class communities in Silicon Valley. All the victims were Asian. The most well-known case in the Chinese community is Chen Liren murdering his wife. Additionally, with the Epstein case coming to light, it's hard not to notice that in 3 high-profile cases handled by the famous lawyer Alan Dershowitz, the perpetrators were all elites. Dershowitz's career seems straight out of the late 20th century film The Devil's Advocate. In the US, taking on cases of pedophilia and wife murder involving the elite has become a major way for lawyers to make it big. The breakdown of marriages in bourgeois families is driven by complex moral, ethical, and social factors. This topic is also a favorite in Western movies and TV series. One big reason marriages fall apart in middle-class families is a clash between capitalism and Protestant ethics. Protestantism was created by the bourgeoisie to take power away from the church, with its core principle being justification by faith. Even though the church lost its authority over defining morality, Protestantism still kept some basic Christian moral values, including family ethics. But once capitalism gets going, people's emotions and desires get pushed to the extreme. The evils of capitalism, when clashing with Protestant ethics, reveal the deep contradictions within capitalism. In artistic works, these conflicts often show up as gods and monsters. For example, in Rosemarys Baby, the husband, a struggling actor, sells his wife to court to get his big break, making her the mother of the devil. In Possession, the protagonist, disillusioned with her marriage and unable to find solace in prayer, uses the devil's body to create a new male protagonist. In both films, the female leads are portrayed like the Holy Virgin Mary. In Rosemary's Baby, the name Rosemary not only refers to the herb, but also symbolically links to the Virgin Mary as Rose. In Possession, a postcard from the protagonist's lover says, "I see half of God's face here, and you are the other half of God." Despite these divine connections, both women are abandoned by their families and end up choosing the devil for companionship. So why do these women turn to the devil instead of their families? In these fantastical films, both protagonists are full-time housewives who have given up their careers and societal roles, losing their identities and becoming dependent on their husbands. This shows that the Enlightenment ideals of women's marital and romantic freedom haven't been realized. After the worldwide overthrow of church rule, women who were trapped in traditional feudal societies seem to be liberated. Some bourgeois young ladies first gained right to education. With the progress of the world, many women gradually obtained the right to vote. Their marriages also seem no longer controlled by patriarchy, allowing them to fall in love freely. As household electronic appliances spread, they are free from heavy labor and able to go to the streets to join movements and even burn their bras to pretend to be men. But do they truly have female rights? Nora, in Ibsen's A Doll's House, is seen as a symbol of feminism. Trapped within her family, she sacrifices her health to work for her husband, yet he still views her as an helpless, fragile canary. Her situation seems hardly better than that of women in traditional feudal societies, and she does not receive more respect. Despite her exhausting efforts to save her husband's debt, she still does not receive the treatment as an independent individual. Then both the audience and the protagonist realize that free love has merely transitioned the bourgeois women from the original patriarchal family into another patriarchal family. In Dickens' David Copperfield, the contrast between the mother and the great-aunt highlights 2 possible fates for women, either depending on the husband and becoming a housewife like a caged canary, or foregoing marriage and love to do business and have a career. However, to achieve individuality and wealth, the great-aunt pays a much higher price than men of her time. After the 1920s, American women gained the right to vote, beginning to be treated as independent citizens. The 1960s saw claims that women should have all the same social rights as men. But have they achieved this goal? Clearly, their imagination of the capitalism remains quite naive. The freedom promised by the capitalists usually comes with a corresponding price, as they tend to commodify everyone equally. In Desperate Housewives, Lynette originally had a thriving career but had to give it up for her family. Once women take on the responsibility of childbirth, their competitiveness in the workplace and the relative valuation of their labor instantly plummet. If judged solely on the intellectual ability, the rising rates of female education and employment are proof of women's capabilities. However, once they bear the responsibility of childbirth, the labor value of women as intellectual workers significantly declines. Moreover, if both spouses end up trapped in cubicle jobs day after day, married life becomes an additional burden after work. In American Beauty, the wife is a real estate agent and the husband works at an advertising agency. Both jobs are like screws in the vast machine of capitalism. They seem to live a stable and safe life in a big house, but their value is actually determined by external forces. In this movie, the monotonous daily routine eventually leads both spouses to betrayal, culminating in a murder by the end of the film. The above discussion illustrates how women's labor is valued in capitalist society. But what about love? Does free love truly bring about pure love? Capitalism commodifies everyone equally, so naturally, love can also be traded. The 3 wife murder cases handled by Dershowitz all occurred within the elite class, while the 3 cases that happened in Silicon Valley before this March involved the middle class. Regardless of the amount of assets owned, it seems that the wives in bourgeois families have become a high-risk group. Due to the relative physical vulnerability compared to men, women, like children, are more likely to become victims. In most violent crimes within marriage, women are the direct victims. In films and TV series, there are numerous plot setups to satisfy women's fantasies of violently resisting marriage. Why Women Kill and the Cell Block Tango from the musical Chicago enumerate many reasons why women might want to kill their husbands: infidelity, lack of empathy for wives' hardships, domestic violence, and more. These plot setups are essentially an emotional outlet for the opposite situation in reality. Putting aside feminism, love in a capitalist society can easily be weighed and measured. In the West, marriage-related legal details are numerous, and the various specifics of prenuptial agreements actually reveal the price and bottom line of both parties in a marriage transaction. The role of the law is not to protect the property of both sides, but to guarantee the duration of the marriage. In The Devil's Advocate and the elite wife murder cases handled by Dershowitz, the details of property division are chilling. If human life can be converted into wealth, the possibility that morality and family be recklessly abandoned cannot be ignored. In a capitalist society, everyone inevitably commodifies others, using their eyes as measuring sticks to gauge the size of someone else's house, the wealth of their husband, the brand of their dress, or even the depth of their secrets. This unspoken consensus is reflected in films and TV series through the prying eyes of neighbors. Within this kind of prying, couples also unconsciously reach a consensus on performing their lives. They present the bourgeois lives as model homes for relatives and friends to visit, while the couple themselves gradually go mad in their monotonous routines. In the 1970s, Bureau produced 2 films about middle-class marriages. One was Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage, and the other was Francois Truffaut's Bed and Board from his Untorn series. Although different in plot, both films share a similar theme: how the love between couples is eroded by the model home-like existence of bourgeois life. Bergman's scene from a marriage is particularly revealing. In this film, the protagonists fall in love but are worn down by the minutiae of middle-class marriage, leading them to exhaustion and infidelity. After their divorce, they rekindle their love and begin secretly meeting behind their new partners' backs. This directly exposes the contradictions between bourgeois marriage and love. I think it would be fitting to end this video with a quote inspired by Engels. He suggests that true freedom of marriage can only happen when capitalism and its proper relations are abolished. Only then will economic considerations, which heavily influence marriage choices, disappear. At that point, the only reason to marry will be mutual inclination.